Something that left you somewhat speechless?
One of my patients, one of the most loveliest persons you'll ever meet, but also quite shockingly, very insecure. He's an adult film star. I learned the hard way. It's not the best clinician that wins. You still have to be good at your clinical skills, core skills. It's the best known clinician. Where most dentists go wrong, especially male dentists, they'll say to a patient, "Oh, Mrs. Jones, you look a bit haggard. Do you want some Botox?" They end up with a black eye.
Harry, it's so good to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us on
My pleasure.
Patients Was Right. Yeah. You don't really need an introduction. I say this for every guest because we have such high-profile guests like you. Maybe give us a quick roundup of who you are for those of us or those who are watching who don't know who you are.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Harry Singh, was a dentist for my sins. Gave up dentistry in 2012 to concentrate on facial aesthetics. Been one of the old dogs OGs since 2002. And then gave up dentistry, as I said, 2012. And it wasn't my intention to set up a training academy, but loads of dentists said, "Oh, don't tell anyone we want to give up dentistry or we want to reduce our time in dentistry." Because in those days, people very rarely gave up dentistry unless they got struck off. And that was the first opinion people said, "Oh, what was your GDC case? Why have you given up dentistry?" I go, "No, it's by choice." And so I set up the training academy, been training since 2014. Still in the trenches, still do aesthetics 2 days a week. Quite important to keep my hands wet. And then training for the rest of the week.
Amazing. That's a sign of a healthy industry, right? When the question becomes, what case have you had with the GDC? It's a sign of a healthy regulator. Cool journey. And also like 2002, I mean, injectables were not really, it was kind of an American Hollywood thing, not really a UK thing.
And it was so secretive, patients were paying by cash because they didn't want their husbands to find out. And if I lived where I worked, and if you would see them in town, I would have to ignore them.
Yeah.
They were their partners, because they go, "How do you know him?" We've had a couple of phone calls in those early days where they were trying to book an appointment. The husbands obviously walked in and just slammed the phone down. Wow. And then 5 minutes later, they said, "Oh, I wasn't being rude, my husband came in."
Wow. Okay. So that was really in the early days then. Fine. And so was that kind of a mutual understanding that you just didn't acknowledge them on the high street? Just like, yeah, it's fine, I don't know you.
Yeah. I think a lot of dentists like that, not to acknowledge their patients. But yeah, it was an unspoken rule that you wouldn't, unless they approached me. And we've had some funny stories. Like, I live in Stevenage, Hertfordshire, to Centre Parks one Easter with the kids, Sherwood, Nottingham. Behind me was a patient with a family. And obviously, she hadn't told her husband, but she was so shocked, she had to say, "Oh, this is Harry, he does marketing for our business." And I didn't have a clue what our business was. So luckily, the husband didn't ask her, "What do you do for her?" etc.
Thankfully, she didn't have an OnlyFans account or anything.
No.
That would have been awkward if you're doing the marketing for that. Fine. We normally kind of start with a rapid fire round, and we ask a few quick fire questions. So,
Perfect.
just to kind of, we just want your gut response, basically. So, Botox or polynucleotides?
Polynucleotides now.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
We just had a fantastic week with the polynucleotides in terms of you don't have to do any marketing because Instagram, TikTok, people already do the marketing. Obviously, you have to explain about the sperm from salmon and trout, etc. But people are loving it. But it kills the injection. It's a burning sensation. I've had it done. My wife's had it done, and I always warn patients. But actually, patients love that burning feeling because they think it's working, which obviously is working. But yeah, definitely polynucleotides.
That's interesting because I think there's so much in the perception around that before you said that's how they know it's working, I was going to ask why do they like it, but I think that's kind of also with the origins of toothpaste. They added a minty flavor to kind of reaffirm people that it's actually doing something.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because you think, oh, you want it to be minimally invasive, you want it to be pain-free, zero downtime, but actually it's reassuringly painful, essentially.
Yeah, that's what I found from going from dentistry where you're giving ID blocks and infiltrations and patients are really nervous. Those same needle-phobic patients, when they converted to facial aesthetics when I was a dentist, they did not moan about the needle at all. Because obviously they're the ones that approach us for the treatment, so it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
And when we do our training, when we do infiltrations with dental blocks or lip fillers, patients go, "Oh, delegates go, "Oh, is that not going to hurt?" But they, look, the patients have asked for this.
Yeah.
Unlike dentistry, unless they're doing cosmetic dentistry, and they would moan and scream for dental infiltrations for a upper left 7 root canal treatment, but for polynucleotides or lip infiltrations, no problems.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, really interesting. Next one, a portfolio of HMO properties or a portfolio of clinics?
Oh,
I don't know if that's a which one's better or which one's worse question.
I'll say portfolio of HMOs. You don't have to deal with the team and all the clinicians. Especially in this industry, there's a lot of egos around there and God complex. So definitely HMOs, as long as it's done properly, licensed. And it depends on your tenants as well. So going for professional tenants compared to DSS tenants or key workers, but professional tenants, normally people straight out of university because they're used to shared accommodation and they've got that professional responsibility of a career or a job. Definitely HMOs.
Okay, fine. Interesting. I knew that would be close to your heart. Comfort or growth?
Growth. Definitely.
Yeah.
The magic happens outside your comfort zone. And luckily I've been ingrained, I think, because my parents came from India in the 1960s. They had 2 jobs. I saw how hard they work and they've just been ingrained in me. And always growth, to some extent, etc. But what I'm a bit concerned on, again with tangent, is my kids, because now they've had it a bit easier, because obviously we reward them. And I did a Facebook post a couple of months ago, how much do you reward them and spoil them because you made the money? You can spoil them because you didn't have that life when I was a kid, compared to defending for themselves and make it really bad. So maybe give them a dodgy iPad from China or something so they really suffer.
That's really it's good to be cognizant of that, I guess, having, your kids are obviously growing up in different circumstances in which you grew up and in which obviously your parents grew up. So where do you as a parent draw the line then? Where do you sort of give them opportunities but also kind of give them the values that you have?
Yeah. 2 things we do. One, delayed gratification. Sorry, get my teeth in. Delayed gratification.
Yeah.
So they want something, I go, okay, we're not going to get it straight away, but also they got to work for it. So both of them have jobs, summer jobs. Our son just come back from Waitrose. He gets 25% off.
Oh, great.
My wife loves it.
That sounds like a tactical family decision.
Yeah. So they see the value of money, but also kids, they don't listen to you. They observe what you do. So we're both working hard. My wife's a pharmacist. They see how hard we work and how hard it is to make that money, and you've got to be on it all the time. So observing me and same again with my weight loss journey now, both kids love the gym, going, eating healthily because they've seen the results.
Yeah.
So you've got to be that example, that beam that shines a light in terms of it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah,
Really
fair
advice.
enough. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking on stage or one-to-one mentoring?
Depends who I'm mentoring. Actually, one-to-one mentoring.
Okay, yeah.
Because I can see the growth, because you can see when we have group training, you can see a lot of people are nervous in front of other delegates. So with the one-to-one mentoring, we can tailor make it. Luckily, because my personality and I'm approachable, the kind of delegates I get are similar to me. So I can see them grow throughout that day. We can do various cases. They're not as nervous, they're much more relaxed, and we can tailor make the treatments and the procedures for them.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess you keep your cohorts quite small and intimate for that reason,
Yeah,
right?
definitely, because we want to give them as much hands-on experience as possible.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Obviously, we'll dive into that. And then finally, I guess you have experience in both passive income or hands-on entrepreneurship.
I've done both. Passive income is a bit of a fallacy because obviously you can't just sit on the beach, although I need a suntan, or I can't swim either, so I won't go on the beach anyway. But no, entrepreneurship, because you have to grow. So I used to do a lot of personal development, as especially Tony Robbins, and he goes progress, not perfection. If we're not growing, that's when we get bored, stagnant, we lose interest. So that's why I go so many courses, both clinical and non-clinical. And I get quite restless as well, so I get quite bored easily, and my wife hates it. So I'm always moving on to the next thing. Obviously, doing a bit of research, but not gold, shiny object syndrome. Yeah. But definitely growth, reading all the time, learning, because if you're not learning or growing, you'll be stagnant, you'll get bored. Yeah,
so it's interesting because the getting distracted easily is something I can definitely relate to, and I think probably most entrepreneurs can relate to, because you want to continue to learn, innovate, and so forth. How do you sort of find a balance between focusing on something and staying focused and seeing it through from start to finish, versus then actually looking outside of those tram rails and thinking about what else is out there? Because obviously you wouldn't have, in 2002, you wouldn't have ventured into injectables if you didn't look outside of dentistry. Yeah. And so how do you know when something is worth focusing on or actually distracting yourself with versus it just being a shiny object?
very hard at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then one of my mentors, Richard Branson,
Yeah.
lucky enough to go to his island,
Absolutely,
taught me how
yeah.
to swim. He's told me a story where he was working on Virgin space program.
Yeah.
And then one of his secretaries came to him and said, BBC want to do a 1 hour interview with you, £250,000. He goes, no, because it's going to distract me from that single focus. And he taught me, do one thing for 3 months. Put all your heart into it for 3 months or like a quarter of the year, and then see what you get at the end of it. And I'll follow that through, but I'm very rigid with my calendar. So there will be blocked times where I'll go into flow. So 2 to 3 hours, I'm going to focus on that. Then I have a bit of admin, and no one can disturb me during those times. And it's like making an appointment with yourself. You have to be disciplined. You have to be focused. And it looks like I'm doing a lot of stuff. So obviously I've got the property, I've got the training academy, I've got the clinic, but I didn't start with all three at the beginning. I did the property. That got me out of dentistry. Then I did the facial aesthetic clinic. Then I did the training. So people just see everything at once. I think it's all happened once, but it's been like a journey, roadmap. But yeah, concentrate on one thing for 3 months. And out of that main thing you're going to do, I always put my top 3 priorities. What do I need to achieve by the end of those 3 months? So a lot of people go wrong by doing lists to do things. It's the outcome. What is that outcome I want from this business?
In 3 months' time. Interesting. I didn't know property was kind of the vehicle to get you out of dentistry. I thought it was a sort of a natural, gradual transition from dentistry into aesthetics. So, but I know obviously about your property experience and your club and your portfolio. So how was that the vehicle that got you out of dentistry and then springboarded you, I guess, gave you the time and freedom to be able to...
Perfect, yeah. So I did enjoy dentistry. So typical Indian parents, I was good at science. They could either become a dentist or a doctor. And I did work experience with both. Went to the dentist. I saw his car, I saw his watch, and I saw his nurse. I'm going to have some of that there. So went to dentistry, but I knew early on at dental school I did not enjoy it. I don't regret getting into dentistry because it gave me the skills and the contacts and the network. But I knew from early on, so as soon as I qualified, I started learning about property investing. And I invested in property from, say, 1999 to 2002 with quite creative strategies. In those days, we could buy properties at a discount, remortgage on the same day.
Yeah.
So as long as you had enough money for a deposit for a house, you would get all your money back and more.
Yeah.
The next day, people don't believe me, but
no, but yeah, I mean, I got interested in property just after that bubble.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, why is everyone talking about same day remortgaging and getting 105% loan to value?
You're getting Mortgage Express will give me 110% mortgage, and I bought 26 properties in 2 years.
Wow.
And then the cash flow helped me, and then I knew that's what I wanted to do. So once the cash flow overtook my dental income, I reduced dentistry, thinking, okay, the plan wasn't to give up dentistry, was I could reduce it, but I still did not enjoy it. And then I found facial aesthetics, which I loved, been doing for over 20 years. So okay, I don't need dentistry. Saw GDC registered, still have to do radiology CPD for whatever we are. Found the GDC, go, what do I need to do this? I'm doing facial aesthetic, and nope, you've got to do it. But yeah, that's how property got me out of dentistry. But because I had a clear goal, so that's why I was so focused on that outcome. I didn't concentrate on facial aesthetics, improving dentistry skills, focus on property to get that outcome of cash flow beating dental income, and then giving up dentistry.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
So what do you love about facial aesthetics that you didn't love about dentistry?
Patients want to see me. That is the main thing there. So Dan Kennedy, another American guru of mine, he always talks about don't be that annoying pest, be that welcome guest. So as a dentist, I felt like an annoying pest. Patients would say to me, I'm sure dentists listening would say, nothing personal from patients, I hate the dentist. And if you hear that every day, you're going to get downbeaten. So we were that annoying pest, but now I'm a welcome guest. I am so popular. Even when I was single and I would go out to clubs, I'll go out with dentists, and they would say, oh, I'm a dentist, girls not interested. I'll go, I do Botox lip fillers. Oh my God, it's swarming. So, hopefully my wife's not listening. So yeah, it's been wanted there. You feel appreciative because obviously we're working hard. It's quite a delicate job, and if everyone wants to be rewarded, obviously money is one part, but recognition is quite important as well. And that's why I could never give up facial aesthetic. I'll do it until I end up in the grave because patients appreciate it so much.
That's really interesting. So when you obviously in the thick of being a dentist, you obviously went into property. What made you still think, you know what, actually, I'm going to go and do facial aesthetics now? Because you could have just kind of carried on with dentistry and just kept that on the side ticking over. So what made you think, oh, I'm going to go for that?
Yeah, I was looking because I was at that crossroads where a lot of dentists out there, they don't enjoy dentistry and they become course junkies. So I was going on a lot of private courses, composites, and there's Invisalign just come around. And we obviously there are other annoying companies as well there. So and I was doing all these courses and I was just a course junkie and it was just like, what do I enjoy? And I found facial aesthetics. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. And what do you think, I guess, what made you do it though? Because it's really interesting because obviously, was it literally just something new, something exciting? Was it because it was quite new in the market? Like what was the real driver to like, you know what, this isn't just like a fun day course, I'm going to actually pursue this now?
I think it was my posture. So I suffered like a lot of dentists, lower back problems. I was having regular sports massages. Obviously, my wife was saying my stomach was a lot bigger in those days, so that wasn't helping. A lot of sports massages, back pain, and because I was bending over, obviously upper left 7 crown prep or endo. It's always be the patient that couldn't recline. But how do you sleep at night if you can't recline? And my back was just gone. And then with facial aesthetics, you're standing upright, you're working on a bigger area, and it's a much quicker procedure.
Interesting.
You got trained originally in facial aesthetics and injectables, and then you sort of went away, and it sort of fizzled out, right, to the point where you let your insurance lapse as well, and you.
Have you done your research, haven't you?
We
You should be a private detective.
Wait until you find out what we really know. So your insurance lapsed, and you had a bit of a hiatus with it, and then you obviously know a lot about marketing, which you yourself say, and also some of the mentors you mentioned. I mean, they're household names in the marketing world anyway. And I remember when I first came across you, I think you just launched your book, the Letting Go of the Handbrake, and then you were into that ClickFunnels community and Russell Brunson and all that stuff. So you sort of credited your resurgence in facial aesthetics and down to marketing and understanding sales and human psychology. So tell us a little bit about that journey. You know, why did you give it up, and why did you then come back into that space?
I think like a lot of clinicians, you go on a course and you think patients is going to come flooding through the door, put a couple of posters in the waiting room, maybe tell a couple of patients. And what happened, and I learned the hard way, it's not the best clinician that wins. You still have to be good at your clinical skills, core skills. Mm-hmm. It's the best known clinician. And that's what a lot of Americans were teaching me. So I went to America a lot, as you said, Russell Brunson, Dan Kennedy. And they go, if no one knows about you, you could be the best clinician, best surgeon, best doctor, best dentist, but no one is going to come and see you. So I made myself learn about marketing, but I found I had a real passion about marketing, maybe because my peers didn't know much about marketing, so they would always come to me for advice, same getting that recognition. So I learned about marketing. So when I did the course in 2002, did it, implement it, gave it up, but I learned about marketing between 2002 2007. So when I relaunched it, I knew how to market.
That's good. The thing with marketing, as you know, is that if you try to kind of appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. And I think your personality is such that you're quite sort of direct. You say it how it is, and it's like take it or leave it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which works because I think, certainly Russell Brunson talks a lot about how to create tribes and fans and advocates, and it's around kind of polarizing the market and sort of having believers and then having kind of people that actually you wouldn't want to work with anyway. And so I think that lends itself quite well to your.
Yeah, because a lot of people think marketing, as you said, just attracting patients, but it's also disattracting the patients you don't want to see.
Yeah.
Then I learned it hard way because when you first start, you think you want to market to everyone, and I use this concept when I teach is who makes more money, a GP or cardiac specialist? The cardiac specialist, because they are trained one specific thing, and you're going to go for that expert when you have a problem. So you want to be an expert, whatever it is, because we know it's a competitive market.
Yep.
You need to stand for something, and you are going to dispel other people, but there's enough for you. And it's like fishing. You'd rather be narrow and deep in a pond than shallow and wide.
Ooh, that's a good analogy.
I mean, it's a great analogy. Actually, we might steal that. We'll credit you, though.
Probably one of the marketers in America came up with that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so you've spoken about 30 patients, fulfillment day. What clicked for you that pushed you completely out of dentistry? Was that a defining moment for you?
Yeah, and I remember that day, and I planned it for like 12 months in advance, and I was so tempted to get my worst patients on that day, go in the waiting room, give them the middle finger salute, and then walk out. But then because I still had to be GDC registered to order the Botox, I couldn't do that, so I couldn't risk doing that. But yeah, I planned it, and I exited. It was a 12-month leeway in terms of the property was doing really well. My brother works for me, he looks after all the properties, because that's another day job. So people buy properties, look at cash flow and passive income, but you've got to manage the tenants, repairs, etc. So you need to offload that with someone. Offloaded that with my brother, hasn't run away with the properties, etc.
That's good, yeah.
And then phased out dentistry. Obviously, there's requirements in PCTs and UDAs how to do it. So I had a 12-month transition. And because I had my dental patients, and this is why dentists are in an unfair position compared to doctors, pharmacists, medical nurses, they've got existing patients that Russell Brunson talks about, know, like, trust. So you've got that credibility, authority already. So I built that up softly with my dental patients. So when I did give up dentistry, the person who took over wasn't interested in facial aesthetics. He goes, okay, you can see them for facial aesthetics. And then I kept those core patients that saw me for facial aesthetics.
Oh, okay.
So is that like a natural talking point then, where you over the course of the year you recall your existing patients, and then you say, look, I'm leaving at the end of the year or whatever, I'm going to be focusing on this going forward. Was that sort of a natural talking point then?
Yeah, and where most dentists go wrong, especially male dentists, they'll say to a patient, oh, Mrs. Jones, you look a bit haggard, do you want some Botox? They'll end up with a black eye. So I did a lot of NLP training with Tony Robbins and Ben Down as well, etc. And they taught me, because I'm very good at going to non-dental events and transferring those skills and tactics to dentistry or facial aesthetics. So they came up with this one phrase. It wasn't to do with facial aesthetics, but it really stood out. And I go, okay, how can I use that in facial aesthetics? So every single dental patient I saw, didn't judge them because you don't know who they, if they're interested in facial aesthetics, but who they know as well. So I would say, Mrs. Jones, I know you're not going to be interested in facial aesthetics, so I don't insult or offend her. Just to let you know, I've started off in facial aesthetics. If you know anyone interested, please pass the word around. So if they are interested, they'll interrupt you. If they're not interested, now you've planted a seed, they're going to tell their friends, family, because I guarantee you they'll know at least a couple of people that will have it. And that's a much better way to approach it. 30 seconds, every single patient. To say that to you.
That is really interesting, actually, because then you're sort of disarming them.
Yeah.
They don't think they're going to get sold to.
Yeah.
And where we initially that you get a bit of friction and a bit of pushback, and you sort of disarm them, and then, yeah, that's really...
Yeah, because I learned that from BNI as well, because BNI say don't sell to the room, sell to the people that the room knows. So we want to sell. They used to do good breakfasts at BNI. That's why I went double the size. And so but BNI go, don't sell to them, sell to who they know, because that's going to be a much bigger crowd.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been in a position where you want to entertain the idea of potentially hiring someone, but rather than asking them outright because of whatever restrictions you're under or whatever it may be, you ask if they know anyone that you're recruiting for. It's kind of a similar principle, I guess. Yeah. And I think Chris Voss, Adrian Dre talks about this a lot. It's sort of that phrase of when you're asking for a favor, you say, would you be against helping me with X, Y, and Z? And it just sort of flips the, really.
And my kids use it against me now as well. They learn so much, because they'll say, just say they want to go sleep at midnight.
Yeah.
They say, Dad, can we stay up until 2 a.m? I go, no, that's a bit too late. Midnight's fine.
Yeah.
We actually always wanted midnight anyway.
So they anchor you. That's really, really good. I think there's a lot to be said for bringing like learnings from external disciplines into dentistry, and I think we're seeing it more now. And obviously we were at the Care Stack event a couple of weeks ago, where they're taking outside perspectives into dentistry.
Psychology, persuasion, influence is all critical.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of at an inflection point in that, and a turning point, and it's actually, if you're successful like you are in translating those concepts into that clinical environment, I think people can really excel.
Yeah, because I was quite shocked. I would go to all these marketing events, internet marketing, not to learn about internet marketing, but the concepts.
Yeah.
I was the only dentist there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And even when I was speaking to people, they go, what do you do? I go, dentist. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
So they're shocked to see non-dental, and I would never see another colleague there.
Yeah. So you've been to Funnel Hacking Live?
Yeah. Florida.
Yeah.
Vegas.
Nice.
Why someone listening there? But it's just their mentality, the people as well, the networking you get, and obviously it's a bigger country, so you have to add an extra zero to whatever we were doing.
Sure, yeah.
But they don't want to make it small. They want to make it bigger. Okay, even if we don't reach for the moon, we'll still hit the stars, which is better than what we were planning for. So they always aim big, which I love that attitude, because as we know in this country, drive a flash car, you might get scratched, but over there they'll stop the driver. How do you make your money?
Yeah.
So true. So did you go to all those events before you started your HMO business and aesthetics? So when you were just
after property and between 2002 2007 to really reignite aesthetics again. And I still go everywhere. They stop for an knife now, but maybe because I got too drunk and said no more bits allowed.
Did someone give you the mic?
Yeah. But I still go now, planning events this year, see what's available, etc. But yeah, it's different countries, but also different attitudes. But learn from people. That's why I big believe in mastermind and small groups, because you can learn from me. We're just going to Marbella this Thursday. For my BTC annual retreat, it's just only 5 of us, but it's a hot seat and it's a mastermind, because I've always belonged to mastermind programs. And you come for the content, but you stay for the community.
Yeah.
Because it's what people are learning from each other and their different experiences.
Nice.
Yeah.
And do you take anything or let me rephrase that, in your courses, do you bring any of that sort of American energy, the sort of, like the showmanship, do you bring that to your courses?
Yeah, definitely. One of our annual conferences, I came as Rocky, and the tune to Rocky, and I was punching Rocky because I was telling a story about how he was homeless, he couldn't get any acting roles, and when he had Rocky, because of his face and accent, they didn't want him to play Rocky, but they offered him about $600,000 for the script. This is the guy who's homeless, he's pawned his wife's jewelry, lost his dog. So most people would say in 1980, 600,000, I'll go for it. I go, no, I want to play the main star. So they go, okay, they settled on about $250,000 and then the rest is history.
Wow.
So I read a lot of autobiographies, see where people struggled and they overcome it, and then, transfer that to my delegates. I go, because a lot of delegates, especially in this industry, will see people on a pedestal. I go, look, everyone started from ground zero. I know some of the KOLs that were doing it in their living room, etc. Obviously, now they're dead against it because they've got a certain stage. But everyone starts, I'm not saying start from your living room, the lounge is better, but but everyone starts from the beginning with no patience, and then you build up.
Yeah, really interesting. That's a great story.
So the Rocky character, was that before or after you had the Rocky physique as well? Because you went through a big physical transformation.
That's before. And I wanted to do 10 press-ups, and I did about 5, and I was so out of breath I couldn't speak for half an hour.
Maybe that was the start of your fitness journey, which we'll dive into. But you've obviously reinvented yourself a couple of times. I mean, not reinvented, but sort of evolved and gone into different domains.
Sound like Madonna.
Absolutely, yeah. When you get into any new domain, and even if you know more than your peers, how do you kind of overcome that imposter syndrome where it's a new domain for you, you're still learning, but then there's a few people that are a few steps behind you and you're coaching them and you're not sure whether, how do you battle that?
It's quite hard. When early in my career, I was quite cautious. I would not teach anything unless I was 100% perfect. But then you're never going to be perfect there. So one of my mentors said, as long as you're one page ahead of people you're teaching, you can relate to them. So the same mentor said to me, so let's say you're starting out, and he asked me this question, go, okay, and you want to make money in property. Would you go to someone that's got 2 properties? I've got 0 properties. Would you go to someone that's got 2 properties or 100 properties? And I said 100 properties. He goes, no, wrong answer, because the person doing 100 properties is doing something completely different. You want to go to the person that's got 2 properties because you want to get your first one, then build it up, and then go to your next mentor. So I've had so many mentors, and when people go wrong, they go for the big KOLs that are making £10,000 a day. But they're not at that level. You could be eventually, but you need to get someone. It's either achieving the results you want in the short term, or it's where you want to be, and then pyramid it up to maybe a bigger mentor.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it, actually, because instinctively you would say, I want the one with 100 properties.
Yeah, the billionaire, etc.
Yes, exactly. But they've sort of probably systemized and institutionalized
they're playing a
their
different
business.
game completely.
Maybe they set up a letting agent to handle that side of the business.
Yeah, and they've forgotten what it is to be a beginner. Because one of the other phrases I always use, every master was a disaster. So you've got to start off at the beginning.
Yeah.
So take us back to your first aesthetic course. So first patient, first complication. What did they teach you? I
know Bo Diddley there. So it's it's not what happens to you, it's how you deal what happens. It's about patient communication. So we are going to have complications, obviously we try to avoid them or minimize them. But what I found was, I phoned a patient that same night and followed them up, and they were so grateful that I spent time in my busy day, because they know we're busy, following up there. So it's not what happens, it's how you deal with what happens. And I think some of the dental defense organizations say the same, is the people that got the least amount of complaints are the ones that communicate the best. They may not be the best clinician, but it's how they communicate. So that's what taught me. So one, complication is going to happen. If you haven't had a complication, you haven't treated enough patients. And when it does happen, it's how you deal with it.
That's really interesting. Something that it's a hot topic on this show, is basically non-medic versus medic and the complications, and, why you should go to a medic, because obviously they can deal with complications. What are your thoughts on the whole medic, non-medic argument?
Yeah, so we don't train any non-medics, and you'll get some funny stories on the telephone. Tracy, not offending anyone called Tracy. Tracy with NVQ level 3 in gel nails goes, can I come on your course? And I go, no. And then they have a massive argument there. I think it's two reasons. One is they cannot deal with complications, and my wife works at hospitals, she sees it in A&E. Yes. They'll just send them to A&E. Two, they've got no regulatory body, so we have got responsibility, and we all know what GDC are like. So we are much more cautious and responsible and caring. Not saying non-medics are not, but from the experience I've seen, and we're in a high street clinic and we see so many cases, you're feeling sorry for the patient because you cannot touch it, because once you touch it, it's your problem and there's not much you can do. And I say either go back to them or you have to let it wear off there. So yeah, it's the ones that they cannot deal with the complications, and there's no governing body that regulates them.
Have you ever had to sort of treat someone who has had a complication because there was sort of no other choice but for you to help them?
Touch wood, no. Yeah, so there's been no, obviously we would, if it's a vascular occlusion and someone rang up and said, I've got a VO, can you help me, I haven't got any high lays, etc. So yeah, I would step in there. But luckily the ones we have seen will be non-emergency, so they've come in, they're either lopsided, lumps, etc., which obviously insurance will say, unless you've got the whole clinical notes, and half of them have got no clinical notes, haven't got a clue what was used, what product, what depth, what plane, what injection technique. So unless we have that information, we cannot treat.
Yeah,
the guest we had on this morning told a story about one of their patients who actually sort of on the sly went off and had some lip filler done, and reluctantly eventually rang up and said, look, I feel stupid because I've gone and done this somewhere, and it's really hurting, and it's, and so she ended up coming in, and it was, she paid £18.
Oh my God.
For the treatment. And it wasn't even hyaluronic acid. It was, they weren't sure what it was, but it wasn't dissolvable, basically. And it was lumpy, and there was nodules, and so it's just, it's sometimes it feels like the Wild West out there, and the risks that patients are taking are just
especially
phenomenal.
we had a couple of patients, actually more than a couple, half a dozen, that during COVID obviously we couldn't treat. I know some people were saying, we're medical, and obviously in reality you could not treat during COVID, but they were going to non-medics, and then the complications was just enormous.
Really? Gosh, that must be a nightmare for you. It's like, did you find that some of them obviously were your existing patients?
Existing patients. But then they trust you even more, because they see the standard, the cleanliness of the clinic and what we do, the post-op and the care we take. So they actually end up telling more patients, don't go to non-medics. They actually become anti-non-medics and refer to us even more.
Yeah, I think some clinicians, they do more dissolving than they actually do injecting. I mean, I think there are some specific people across the country who actually, do a lot of dissolving. I mean, of dermal fillers specifically, which is wild. And now I think the techniques are advancing with ultrasound and that sort of thing. Good. What you've obviously made a career for yourself and others around injectables, and part of BTC is obviously empowering originally dentists primarily to build the aesthetic side of their business and help them grow that, because as you said earlier, there's a lot of course junkies who will do a course, they'll get qualified, and then they'll go away, forget about it, and do nothing. So you help remove that friction by coaching them through the business skills and the marketing and so forth. What is the single biggest reason that the facial aesthetics business fails to take off for clinicians?
They don't implement straight away.
That's it.
Yeah, they don't implement. So because it's easy for them to stick to dentistry because obviously are going outside their comfort zone, so it's a new skill they've got to implement it, and they have to get the team on board in terms of front of desk and their nurses, etc. We had one dentist come to us and said, I don't think facial aesthetics is going to work in my clinic because the receptionist is anti-Botox. So every time a patient asks about their Botox or fillers, the receptionist goes, that's a poison. Why would you inject that? So I said, either get rid of your receptionist or you're not going to do facial aesthetics.
Yeah.
So they don't implement. So what we do is that we give them a 90-day roadmap. So I've been there. Half of it is clinical skills, having confidence, because obviously dentists are risk averse, so they're worried about complications. And I tell them how rare it is, and obviously with our techniques we make it safe as possible. There's implementation, so week by week we say you need to do this, sort out your insurance, sort out your pharmacy cap. Week 2, send an email newsletter, we give them templates. Week 3, treat your team or family so you're going to be much more relaxed. Week 4, do this. Because if they don't follow that system, and it's a scary fact when I was speaking to Hampton Fraser that 80% of dental professionals give up their facial aesthetics insurance after 1 year because they go, if they haven't implemented after 3 months, they'll say, okay, £250 for 3 years of Botox or £600 for another crown prep. It's just habit, isn't it? They'll just go back to the crown prep.
Yeah.
There. So, yeah, it's implementation straight away after course. And I do that myself when I go on these marketing courses. I've just been to CCR. I spend a day, the next day I take a whole day off to digest my notes and have an action plan. So I tell my delegates when they book the course, let's say it's a Friday, have Saturday off. If they book on a Sunday, have the Monday off.
Yep.
So you can implement. I learned that a long time ago. It's really helped because what happens is instead of being self-development, you end up shelf development. And they just leave their notes on the shelf and never look back in. And they think by reverse osmosis, they're going to get into information from that shelf.
I mean, there's a lot of parallels in the marketing industry as well, candidly. And I've bought my fair share of courses where it's just like, it's like information hoarding. Like, I feel like I should have that, but then you actually don't make the time for it. And I saw it with my own course. I've only ever launched one course back in 2017 or 18. And a lot of about, 50 or 60 dentists bought the course.
Yeah.
I would say 20% completed it, maybe. I would say 30 to 50% never logged in.
No, yeah.
So they've bought it.
Yeah.
They've invested, and it was $1,000. I mean, it's not like the end of the world, but it's still, it's
I've done that myself, online programs, and you missed especially when I go to America. I just did one last month on referrals. It's American time. It's at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. So it's $2,500. 3-week course. I haven't logged in once.
Yeah.
So it does happen to the best of us.
Yeah.
Wow. So going back to the aesthetic industry as a whole, what's the biggest lie the aesthetic industry is telling itself today?
Biggest lie. Good.
I feel like so many.
Yeah, there are so many. You have to look the part.
Okay.
Yeah, so I see so many, and I definitely don't look the part. So look part, glam, etc. And we get a lot of dentist delegates coming on course go, I don't look the part, being glamorous. And actually, after 20 years experience, that puts off patients. If they've seen someone like a supermodel, perfectly groomed, they go, I'm never going to look like that. They don't feel comfortable. Bit like that mentor that I said, do you want someone with 2 properties or 100 properties? You want someone that looks after themselves, but slightly better than you, but not so much over that they could be a supermodel that you feel intimidated. Because my patients, unless we're in Harley Street, which we're not, my patients are average Joe, average Sally. You would never notice they've had the treatment, or you would never expect them to have the treatment. So I think by being where a lot of newbies come in, they think they have to be that perfect look, and you don't.
Do you think in that sense, you are what you attract and vice versa? So for example, if you look like you've had a lot of work done and that's the look that you want and you have big lips and it's all a bit sort of artificial, is that just who you end up attracting?
Yeah, you're attracting some of the doctors, and I see at conferences like, oh my God, if you're doing that to your face while you're treating, etc. So yeah, I'm approachable. Yeah, so we get all mingers. we get normal people.
Yeah, the thing is, you probably want normal people as well.
Yeah, normal people, they appreciate it more, and also they're not doing it for cosmetic reasons. They're for self-esteem, self-confidence, which you really appreciate. And they go, oh, just been divorced, had a broken relationship, I'm struggling in my career, and they're doing it from themselves, which I love treating. And then they come back in 6 months' time, I feel more confident, I'm dating now, going for more interviews.
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing. Aesthetics can really give you back your confidence, and it's not about looking overdone. It's about looking like how you feel.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's about the feeling, not by the look. So that's why, I think the biggest line is, you've got to look that part.
Mm.
You've been through a big physical transformation in the last sort of year, which you mentioned briefly before we walked in. So you said it's helped a lot in terms of your focus, clarity, in terms of your own physical health. You've obviously touched on the positive influence that's had on your children as well. How has that carried through into how you treat patients and how you present yourself to patients?
Got to keep on changing my tunic every week because nothing fits me now, so more costly. But actually, it's the patient's comments. So many patients have become more healthy because of they've seen my transformation in terms of, like my kids do. So they say, oh, how do you lose the weight? We're struggling. I talk about my intermittent fasting. I talk about my supplementation, the exercises I do. And I love talking about it. And the patients, and I see them come back 6 months later, they've lost a couple of stone, etc. So because obviously we're looking at the outside, but we need to look at the inside as well. And we'll come to that in a minute. There's a couple of topics I want to talk about. But yeah, if you could be looking flawless skin, smooth face, but if you've got diabetes or obesity, what's the point of having it there? So it's the conversations I'm having with patients, but also I feel more confident in myself. I'm walking around with a strut and stuff. I look in the mirror, the staff hate it because I'm going to get rid of all the mirrors, etc. But yeah, it's a conversation I'm having with the patients. But as you said, the focus, the energy, the sleep. I haven't got it on today, but I wear the Whoop watch, tracks everything. And it's about accountability, etc. And I'm 52. Kids are getting older. I have to be there for their kids, etc. So especially with the Asian community with diabetes and obesity. But also, one of the things that was a big play was alcohol. So same with dentistry face to say, alcohol is quite common at events and networking events. If you're not drinking, getting laddered, you're not part of the in crowd. And I used to think that, so I would go be last person standing. I didn't regret it because I built some really good contacts and people do open up after a couple of drinks. But since I've given up, I haven't missed it. I don't think I missed out on networking or meeting people. And then you're watching, you're observing other people and go, oh my God, that person's a white idiot. That was probably me 6 months ago, etc. But I think, yeah, that's another lie is you have to be at all the networking events, parties, you have to be drinking, etc. And I heard, I found it the hard way because when I was at some of the dental shows, I look up to that person, let me buy them a drink. And they would never, ever buy you a drink back. So I go, God, these people are so self-centered and stuff that I've always offer, my nature will be offered to them a drink and they will never buy me a drink back. So, okay, I don't need them there and don't need alcohol.
Amazing. And was it a particular moment that made you transform?
My wife, we were watching I don't watch much TV, we were watching something on TV and then she goes, she's quite clever, she won't say it direct, she goes, a couple of doctors have been on that skinny jab and they've lost a lot of weight, you should look into it there. So I know what she means by that there. So I did do the skinny jab Java for a couple of months, but obviously I don't agree with it now because it's better peptides on the market. But it gave me the kickstart because my problem was exercising, it was diet, food control. I know self-control. If I saw food, I would just eat it there. So it stopped all those cravings. Only did it for a couple of months and then I changed my mindset, my relationship with food, and I started training much more and my diet's been so good since then.
Amazing. People do talk about peptides as well. Obviously, feel free to tell us a bit about that because it's something I hear in passing, but I hear in the dental community it's actually quite a big thing as well.
Yeah, it's peptides, exosomes in terms of, so I've got a couple of people I know. America's quite advanced, so there's different peptides. There's retatrutide, which is a GLP-3 agonist. So Mounjaro is GLP-2. But the problem with Mounjaro or Wegovy is you can lose a lot of bone mass and muscle mass. So with retatrutide, it targets belly fat and visceral fat, so it's much more healthier for you. So that's going to be coming. It's made by the same company that makes Mounjaro. So it's going through trials in America, and that will come available next year. And that is a game changer. The results I've seen with that, with bodybuilders, no fat, but still maintaining muscle. Testosterone, so I used to get my bloods taken every year. As I get older, testosterone goes down. So I'm on testosterone supplements, and I'm lifting the same as I used to lift in my mid-20s there. And there's different types of testosterone. Obviously, the lozenges or the cream, problems with those is they suppress your natural testosterone. But there's a citrate formula that doesn't it just enhances your own testosterone, so you've got to be careful which one you go for. NAD plus, I love NAD plus, and methylene blue. Those are my two energy savers. The only problem with methylene blue makes your tongue go blue. And
Yes.
sometimes I forget to drink it through a straw, then my teeth and I blue. My staff goes, your teeth are blue.
Okay, quickly brush.
Brush them. So methylene blue and NAD plus for energy. Oh my God, I am bouncing around. But also by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, it's gone. So you can go get a good night's sleep there. So, but I did a blog last week about it, where people go wrong. They want the methylene blue NAD plus this one straight away.
Yeah.
That's the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
You got to get the basics. If you're eating like a pig, drinking, smoking, NAD plus methylene blue peptides will make no difference
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Get your basics, which is what I did for the 6 months. Cut out alcohol, minimal carbs, training, improve my VO2 and cardio, weights 4 times a week. Did it for 6 months. Now it's the icing on the cake. NAD plus testosterone, methylene blue.
Amazing. Sounds like you've had a real transformation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The energy-wise, probably need some fillers now on my face because I've got no fat on my face. Do you know anyone?
I mean, you're starting to sound like a biohacker, Tim Biohacker.
Yeah. So I'm looking at I know one of the questions was, what's the next generation of facial? So what do you think is trendy?
Yeah.
A lot of people talking about regenerative medicine, but my issue with that is if you've got crap cells lacking nutrients in your body, what are you regenerating? So I'm a big believer in, and we're just launching a new course, bloods, biohacking, and biological age.
Yep.
So you need to know your blood,
Yeah.
and we've got this device in the clinic that we're rolling out where you have a finger prick test and it can do vitamin D, diabetes, get your result in 8 minutes. Because what I used to do, go to Harley Street, £200 for a consultation, £400 for a blood test, wait 4 weeks before the result.
Yeah.
So we get the results straight away. Then we can look at biohacking, which is the peptides, and then obviously I'm part of David Lloyd, where they have that biological age machine. So I've been training really hard. I was 52 and it says I'm 48. I want to get down to 40. So biological age is critical because I want to live forever because I love what I do,
Yeah.
and I would never retire. So yeah, bloods, biohacking, and biological age.
Did you go to the Health Optimization Summit a couple of weeks ago?
I went on the Sunday.
Okay, yeah.
I want to go on the Saturday because a couple of good speakings. There's one expert from America on peptides that I want to listen to, but
Yeah.
hopefully they'll do recordings.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
They do recordings, yeah. I think I went last year and Tim was very good.
Yeah.
Gary Brecker was there. There's some really, really good
Yeah, we're working on something where one of my contacts knows Tim, and Tim's on one of our boards.
Okay.
Something coming up very soon.
Very excited.
Yeah.
I've actually invited Tim onto the show, but he is, we're not big enough.
Is he? Yeah.
Which is fair. I mean, but it's, really, really interesting space, actually.
Yeah,
So,
even for dentistry, like hygiene, we've got a hygienist conference. We're going to do bloods for diabetes and the community because that affects gingival health.
Yeah.
You've got implants, so you need to make sure the tissues are healthy, etc.
Yeah.
So I think that is the next wave where
Yeah.
we can check the inside and go, okay, this is supplementation we recommend to get the best results from implants, gingival treatment, obviously, and
Yeah.
also if we're doing polynucleotides or exosomes, you've got the best chance of it working.
Well, and there's a lot of talk also about the oral microbiome now. I think that's being more universally accepted, basically. Before we dive into some of the frameworks that you brought in and that you talk about and that you teach, I wanted to ask you one last question around the medical aesthetics market, because it kind of goes in waves. So you have, injectables have their moment, and then Botox and fillers were sort of slowing down, if you like. Then energy devices they were having a moment, and lasers, and then injectables have made a comeback with polynucleotides, exosomes, and boosters and so forth. You are not a device guy. A lot of people are device people, and
Because I'm Indian, I'm so tight, I don't want to spend
money. So a lot of people go out and say, okay, I'm starting my clinic, I need all these devices, and they'll spend literally hundreds of thousands of pounds. And so tell us about that. Why have you? I know you've got a couple of devices, but why have you always aligned yourself more to the injectable side? And where do you think the market is going as a whole?
Yeah, so as you said, injectable is about 80% of our business. We have got a couple of devices, radio frequency marketing and HIFU, so it's about 20%. Yeah, I think especially dentists, because they're used to investing large amounts of money in equipment, x-rays, select machines, etc., scanners, they expect that with facial aesthetics. Yeah, and I say to them, you may need to invest in devices, but you need to do your own market research. So what I would say to them is, okay, start with injectables. You're not going to waste any money. You're going to use everything that you're going to buy. If you are interested in devices, let's say they're interested in a HIFU, I would survey all your patients. Go, okay, we're looking at investing in some machines. Put HIFU as one of them, but put other machines you're not looking at buying, laser hair removal, EML sculpt, etc. So you're not biased. So if you get no one ticking HIFU, no one's interested in your patient base. Then you go into a second stage where if people do tick HIFU, you approach those people and say to them, okay, we've got a special offer. It's going to be half price. All we need is £100 deposit.
Yeah.
So if no one pays a £100 deposit, they've talked about it and they're not willing to put the hands in their pocket,
Yeah.
don't buy the machine.
Yeah.
If you get 90% of those patients putting a £100 deposit, you know that's going to pay for your first 3 months of rental. It's worthwhile investing in that machine. So I say go for devices, but do your market research with your patients. I think it is going to be a combination now because as we know, the skin, the face, different layers, they age at different rates and at different times throughout the decades there. So you do need to have that multifactorial approach where you may be looking at skin treatments, polynucleotides, skin boosters, biostimulators, and radiofrequency microneedling, which will give you a much better result for your dermal fillers injectable. So that's the way we're going now. I see it. It's not this or that. It's both to get the best results that we can possible.
Yeah, I feel like I'm definitely seeing that shift and hearing people speak. It's about, layering treatments. It's about
combining
stacking.
them, yeah.
Yeah, because you want to actually prolong the results of your injectable treatment.
Yeah, and patients understand that they're educated. Patients know more than I do because they go to social media and see everything there.
And what about the sort of regenerative medicine in terms of injectables? Like you mentioned, obviously polynucleotides, Profilo, those kind of treatments. Are you introducing all of those as they come more popular?
We have a menu of services. The way we do it, and I see a lot of people go wrong with this on their website or flyer, they talk about Profilo, skin boosters, dermal fillers. That is the solution. Mm-hmm. The patients do not know the solution they need. They only know the problem. So on our website flyers, it goes, are you concerned with anti-wrinkle? Then we can talk about those treatments. Are you concerned about your skin complexion? Then we can talk about devices and Profilo. Are you concerned with loss of volume? Then we can talk. And also, as you guys know, it will help with SEO rankings as well because people are searching for the problem. They don't know. I'm so shocked that patients come in and go, I think I need Botox on my lips to make it bigger.
Yeah. All right, let's try that.
Yeah, so people still do not know. So they are problem-based, which is what you need to be. And then you are the expert presenting the solution.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you think because you're so interested in biohacking in terms of the health perspective, you're more interested in that side of aesthetics as well?
Definitely. I can see my clinic going down in terms of more longevity clinic, in terms of looking at the inside, looking at the blood. I'm so obsessed myself. I'm always looking for the latest hack. And say I want to, and I've always been an educator trainer, so anything I learn, I just want to share it.
Yeah.
So that's why I did the Facial Tech Training Academy, and then that's why the longevity biohacking. I don't mind sharing stuff with patients and other colleagues.
Really interesting.
You talked briefly about obviously the concern-based approach, i.e., talking about signs of wrinkles or early aging or whatever. Yeah. As opposed to the treatment or solution focus. So I think that sort of ties in quite nicely to the framework you showed us earlier, which is around kind of the different stages of awareness. So tell us a little bit about that and where you think most clinics go wrong and what you teach your delegates.
Yeah, so I always use a story. I go, okay, quite topical, women's rugby final Twickenham.
Yeah.
Let's say you've been given 30 seconds to talk to the crowd selling facial aesthetics. So you could talk about obviously Botox fillers. A study has shown only 3% of that crowd are interested in Botox, ready to buy, and are willing to buy. So when I learned that stat, I go, what the hell do we do with the 97%? So the other 97% could be they're not problem aware. They don't know facial aesthetics exist. So that's why we have a lot of educational material talking about what is Botox, what's the difference, how to choose a practitioner. And I've written a book, I've got it here, A Patient Guide to Medical Aesthetics. It goes to every single patient because it's education. Then those people are solution aware, so they know they've got a problem, they know they need a solution, but they don't know what they need. So same again, it's going to be educational. What's the difference between Botox fillers? When would you need biostimulators versus regenerative treatments? Then you've got the most aware, the problem aware, solution aware, but they don't know why they should come and see you. And that's where you've got that credibility authority piece. So where people go wrong, they just do that last bit, that 3%, how great I am, what's our USP, what do we do, which is good. But they're not catering for that 97%, so they need educational, how to choose a practitioner, what's the difference between Botox fillers, what's the benefit of facial aesthetics, improving your self-esteem, self-confidence. You don't have to have the frozen look or fake look. So that's where you've got that lead generation, as we know with funnels. Start with the broader base and then narrow them down.
I mean, it's music to our ears because we cite the same kind of study or the same. I mean, it's more of a, I guess, more of a rule of thumb, right? It's more of a heuristic. But yeah, when I've done talks to dentists as well, I sometimes ask the room, and I'm like, who here wants to buy an iTero in the next 30 days? And then, in a room full of whatever, 30 people, 1 or 2 hands go up, right?
Yeah.
It's a big investment, and yeah, sure. Some people are thinking about it. And then I'm like, right, let me flip that on its head. Who here wants to increase their case acceptance, right? And then more goes up. All right, fine. Who here wants to increase their revenue and grow as a clinician and do more transformative dentistry? And then everyone raises their hand. And so it's just about how you frame it and how you position it. But how do you find a balance? So, obviously everyone wants people who are ready to buy and they're ready to pay for it, and leads that are just hot and convert. The realities are that you cannot just zero in on that 3% all the time. So how do you find a balance between planting seeds with people, but also going after the people that are ready to buy? Because otherwise, if you just focus on the top of funnel, as we call it, right? There's a delay in terms of, it'll take some 30, 60, 90 days for them to convert, and that feedback loop becomes a bit delayed. So how do you kind of balance that?
I would say it depends what marketing you're doing. So if we're doing like social media marketing, I would say 80% of that is top of funnel.
Yeah.
Because they don't know me. So we need to build that trust, trust as Russell Brunson talks about. Internal marketing, i.e. marketing to my patients or referrals, is either way 80% is bottom of funnel.
Yeah.
Because they've already got that relationship with me. So we're encouraging referrals, Google reviews, packages, upselling to those patients there. So it depends what medium you're using. So internet marketing, social media, they don't know you, 80% top of funnel is my guide. People that do know you are your existing patients, 80% of that is bottom of funnel.
And so if someone graduates from your program, and obviously the key advice there is implement straight away, because that's the single biggest problem for people, where should they start with marketing?
So it depends what profession they are. So
Yeah.
if they're a dentist, which is mainly dentists and dental hygienists that we train, it's going to be all internal marketing. So 4 things we tell them to do. Number 1 is talk to every patient, that 30-second conversation. Mr. Jones, I know you're not going to be interested. Just to me, Email newsletter. I am shocked about how many dentists have patients' emails and do not send them anything there. Obviously, you need to be GDPR compliant. And same again, it's an educational newsletter. It's not sales. So that's if they do send newsletters, it's all about selling. That's not good. You're educational. Third thing we say is organise an open evening, open event, which you guys are experts at. But the 4th thing is, and especially the Asian dentists hate this, treat the team for free. So I say, who's watched Breaking Bad? What do drug dealers do? Get them hooked. So what I say to my patients, so the dentist is, treat your team members for free. And I did it with all my nurse and reception staff. And I say to them, if you want your next treatment free in 4 months' time, which they will, you have to refer 5 friends to me who pay normal price. They always find 5 friends. They fight over whose friend is who's there. So let's say you've got 4 team members. That's 20 new patients every quarter. And so the ones that worked really well are the 30-second chat to Mr. Jones and the treating the team for free. Obviously, it will cost you a little bit, but they love the results. Also, then we educate the team members. So any time a patient says to them, oh, you're looking well, they're not going to say, oh, thanks. They're going to say, oh, I just had my Botox, just had my skin booster. Plus, when I was treating my dental patients, I would say to nurse, how's the Botox going? How's the skin booster going? Because patients are nosy. They're going to be listening, and you're planting the seed that you offer facial aesthetics.
Right, so you just have a
Conversation. Yeah.
That's really interesting. That's something I remember being at a talk and saying the exact same thing, like treat your team.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, what? It was like, I remember this one.
I know,
time,
the
like,
dental-
what do you mean? I was like, you can give them treatments because they're going to promote you.
That's it.
Obviously.
All my team get free treatment on everything there. We had one dentist came on the course. He was quite tight, maybe tight. So his hygienist came on the course a month later. He goes, can you do my Botox? I go, doesn't this doctor want to do it? We go, no, he was going to charge me normal price. So now she's coming to see me. Plus, he's never going to refer anyone to him in terms of patients.
So silly.
Yeah,
Yeah, missing a trick.
that's it.
Well, there was a story the other day, and these 2 business partners bought a dental practice, and they asked the staff, they took over, and they wanted to not sort of shake things up too much. But they said, look, we're going to keep things as is and get to know the business, get to know the patients, get to know the team, and we'll sort of build from there. And they were, very cognizant of not wanting to scare the existing team. And so, but they said, look, you know, if you had a magic wand, like what's one thing now that we're new owners, new sheet of paper, clean slate, what is one thing that you'd really like in this practice that you don't have today? Thinking it was going to be, you know, new OPG or a scanner or whatever. They said, you know what? We'd really like a microwave. And so they ordered like a 35-pound microwave from Argos the next day and was delivered, and they've been so happy. And a coffee machine and all this kind of stuff. So it's amazing how much you get back if you invest in your team.
Yeah.
And how few people actually do it, basically.
And people, especially owners, think it's all about the money, but it's not. It's those perks, critical non-essentials, as Paddy Lunn talks about. It's how you treat them.
Yeah.
They're like my family.
Oh, lovely. That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
They get better trips than my wife does.
Amazing. So going to sort of patient-centric and thinking about them, how do you set expectations without killing a patient's excitement?
Good question. That wasn't on my list. Because I'm quite down to earth and approachable, obviously we would say depends on the risk and what type of procedure we're doing. So when I first started, I was too scared to mention complications or side effects in case I lost the patient. As you get more experience, you become, I would say, braver, and also you say no to more patients. So I would be quite open with patients in terms of the biggest one, expectations, is when the results are going to happen and what difference. So we don't have a fancy 3D image machine because it gives them over too much expectations there. So, and we have a before and after photo based off average cases, not my best cases, because they expect those kind of results. And yeah, most of the time it will happen, but not all the time there. So, and I'll say to them, look, everyone's face is different, lifestyle is different, and because we believe in a lot of education, I always talk about the 5 S's of aging, like stress, sun damage, spirits, lack of sleep, smoking. And go depends on your lifestyle, what results we're going to expect. Complications, I'm much more open, so I always divide them into expected and unexpected. So in Botox, I'll talk about expected redness, swelling, lumps, bruising. Unexpected ptosis, eyelid ptosis, eyebrow ptosis. Same with fillers. Expected redness, swelling, lumps, bruising. Half the time they don't get them, so they think you're great. Doesn't happen. Unexpected, obviously we're going to talk about delay, lumps, and vascular occlusion there. So it's being open, but not casually saying it, but bringing the conversation. Is obviously they will read your body language. So if you're quite nervous and very strict or reading from a template, they're going to say, oh, well, they don't look at me, this is really scary. But bring it in the conversation.
Yeah, and are you comfortable, obviously probably doing it for years, you probably are, but are you comfortable saying no?
Yeah, not at the beginning. There, so you think, not because you want to be greedy with money, you think you can help everyone. As you get more experience, your gut feeling goes. We had one patient 2 weeks ago, older lady, about 55, 58, and oh my God, I could not get a word in edgeways. He's saying she's been to 3 different practitioners. He wants this. She wants 0.2 million chin projections. He was showing me Instagram photos. And she got quite angry and said, look, you're better off going to someone else. I cannot deliver results. And then as I was walking through the door, she goes, you wasted my time. I go, well, you wasted my time. I just fight them back. And there. But yeah, you have to, because once you start treating them, it's downhill from there. So you will have a gut feeling. Most professionals will have a gut feeling. And all the patients you wish you never treated, there were signs at the consultation.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important never to rush that consultation and not to do treatment on that first visit. So we allow 45 minutes for each consultation. We go through everything. We never ever treat on that same visit. Get them back, give them a cooling off period. But also, I'm giving myself a cooling off period there. So what my girls will do is they research them on social media. If I'm not too sure about a patient, not every patient, I'm not too sure, they'll look at their history, what they're posting, what they're saying, etc. And if we have any alarm bells ringing, we won't treat them.
That's really interesting.
It's a good approach.
Yeah, to actually research, because they're doing it to you, I guess. Why?
I learned that from someone that used to do team training and job interviews. Before he interviewed anyone, he would research their social media history.
Yeah. Well, we've researched you, and you still made it onto the show. So, but I saw, was it last week? You had a 1-star review, and your approach was great. I can't remember what it was. It was
As a salesman, A salesman in between a busy clinic, just came unannounced salesperson. Didn't have time to see him. I go, just leave some stuff with Molly, my receptionist, and obviously hit a raw nerve with him and left us a review.
Yeah.
Cool.
1-star review. But the same rude, arrogant man. Then my wife texts me, goes, he's not wrong, is he?
Oh god. So what language would you say shifts patients away from chasing those like quick fixes?
Being too clinical, too technical. I am not the brightest person. I failed my finals at dental school. There are people like proper nerds and much better than me. And I think that's held me in good stead because I can speak the same language as the patient. So I just use phrases, stories in terms of, for example, for Botox, I'll say to a patient, it's like a light dimmer switch. We're not going to turn it off completely. We're going to reduce the glare. For fillers, I say it's like your favorite sofa cushion. You flatten it, we're going to bounce it back, but it will be the still shape as your face. Then we talk about skin boosters. It could be like it's your electrolytes, because I'm taking electrolytes, I can relate to that, or it's like fertilizer. So it's using stories that they can understand, and this is where AI comes really good. So if sometimes I'm struggling to use a metaphor, I'll go to ChatGPT and go, give me 5 metaphors about how to explain radio frequency microneedling that a patient can understand, and it comes up with 5 metaphors.
Yeah, I mean, you dropped some really good metaphors already, like little Harry Singh-isms. Quite good, actually. You sort of positioned yourself, I guess, maybe in more recent years as an aesthetic contrarian. So, tell us about a time where you sort of divided the room and sort of maybe pissed off some of your peers in the process.
2 things I think when we talk about on KOLs.
Yeah.
I would say 80% of KOLs love themselves and they are KOL tarts. They'll just go from one company to another company. And I was talking to one of the reps at CCR this week and they go, that KOL is such a slut. Goes to every single company. So KOLs, 80% of them, they'll change. And we had one conversation with a dentist 2 weeks ago. So he was crying down the phone. She goes, follow this KOL, female dentist, who's telling me to buy this machine, etc. I followed her. Now, getting no business from that machine. We don't know how to market it. No one's interested. Follow up with that KOL. She goes, oh, that machine was rubbish. I'm onto this different company. You should buy this one. Just left her in the lurch. There are so many like that. So don't look up to the KOLs. 80% of them are BS. But the other thing which we mentioned is conferences. I have this real stigma about conferences and sport. Obviously, I know conferences have to make money, but it's misleading for beginners and novices because they see the same speaker go, they must be really good. They're just getting paid by the sponsors to speak. So I wanted a couple of stands a few years ago and obviously this year, and as you've got to pay 10 grand, I want to speak, 10 grand for a stand, 2.5 grand to speak. If you're independent business like me, it's not going to be worth it. It's not big return on investment. If you're big companies, you can, and then that's why they get the same speakers. And I found it for my delegates, they're not going to conference to go, same topic, same speaker from last year, what we're going to learn differently.
Yeah.
So I think conferences have gone too far, where it's paid gigs, all sponsored, and the educational content is going.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's so, I don't know, you touched on it earlier, the aesthetic industry can be so sort of frivolous and so like sort of veneered in terms of its approach. And I think things like KOLs and CCR, for example, they're kind of giving people platforms to show that off, and it's hard to get that balance, really.
Yeah,
like
and you're sitting building, you listen to them, and I did at the beginning there, and you'll see them, and a lot of the KOLs, their foundations like sand. Right, they'll be your best friend, you can help them. Something else moves on, the water comes in, washes that sand, they'll go somewhere else, etc.
Another great analogy. I'm Harry Singh.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think one of the reasons we created this show, and actually most guests who've come on have actually been very open and vulnerable, and because we wanted to see more like real stories. And I think dentistry is probably a little bit better at it now, because I think it's maybe a bit further along, and people talk openly about like mental health issues, suicide rates, and so forth. Aesthetics, because of the nature of the role and the nature of the industry, it's more cosmetic led. It's more about appearances and keeping up appearances. And so we wanted to create the show so people would actually share the real, what does it take to run a clinic, and we wanted to hear the horror stories of people losing their CQC registration or people almost going bankrupt or whatever, because no one's going to go on stage in CCR and be like, you know what, I ran out of money, my business ran out of money 2 years ago and I bounced back, because no one's going to tell that story.
Yeah, because half the KOLs they used to have in Harley Street, they couldn't make it in Harley Street, they moved somewhere else, but you don't hear that story.
No.
But it is quite lonely topic, because unlike dentistry where you have a nurse and a big team, most are solo practitioners, so you don't need a nurse or assistant, so they're working by themselves, and also they think they're the only ones with a problem, they want us to do something. And I always say, Facebook is fake book.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing 200 press ups before 6 o'clock, having that spinach, blueberry smoothie, perfect life, perfect wife, perfect kids, and then 50 implants before 10 p.m.
Yeah.
10
Yeah,
a.m. Yeah.
exactly.
Just doesn't work like that.
No.
We're kind of coming to the last few bits really of the show, but I think one of the things that you've spoken about before and in your books, and I guess has sort of been a thread in your career, is around this concept of financial freedom. And we spoke a little bit about passive income. Doesn't really exist. I've been down that rabbit hole and realized also the hard way it didn't really exist. The reason I started Ignite was because I wanted a location independent, eventually passive income business. And, I mean, Ignite has been anything but passive.
A lot of people go in business, they want less stress, more time with their family, more holidays, more money, and everything happens the opposite way.
It's a complete lie, yeah. So what does financial freedom mean for you today? And then, say, compared to 20 years ago, how has that evolved?
Yeah, I was actually saying 3 stages. So I always say, because of dental property cover, I get a lot of dentists that down in Dundrums, they hate dentistry, but because they've got such an expensive lifestyle, if they could go to another career that earns them the same money straight away, they would do it.
Yeah.
That heartbeat. But because dentistry does pay you, most people, quite well. So I say start off with financial security. So financial security is enough passive income that covers the essentials. So if you drop dead or couldn't work, at least your mortgage is paid for, utility bills. Then most people end up with financial independence, which is where I am. Financial independence is enough passive income or income that maintains your lifestyle. Because financial freedom, you're always going to want a bigger car, helicopter, private jet, yacht, etc. So financial freedom would be endless. There's that financial independence. Then you get to a stage where you don't need to work. I probably work 6 days a week. I don't need to, because I love it. I can choose what I do. I love teaching. I love the clinic. I love marketing. So it gives me freedom to go to marketing courses, go to America for a jolly. No alcohol this time. Fake Jack Daniels. But I say financial independence is enough income to do what you want, when you want, with who you want.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Yeah. You're leaning quite heavily into AI. I think you're a big sort of advocate of AI. Not many clinicians are really adopting it yet in the same way that perhaps people in marketing or technology might be. So what's your take on it, and how do you see it evolving, and how do you see it sort of penetrating into the medical aesthetics industry?
Yeah, AI is the future. It's here already. And same again, I go to America because they're so far ahead. I belong to a couple of AI mastermind groups in America online, so they're really good in terms of the forefront. So I say marketing is the biggest one. Obviously, in terms of blog ideas, metaphors. So I use it more like a brainstorming. Where people go wrong with AI, ChatGPT, for example, is you need to have a conversation with it. Treat it as a conversation. Treat it as like an intern, you're training. So we use ChatGPT for ideas, blog content creation, social media content, but obviously you still have to use your own voice. Then one of the best ones I've used is Gamma for presentations. I was doing some this morning. Just get the outline within 2 minutes. It's got a 50-slide presentation. Obviously, you've got to modify it. I would hate doing PowerPoint slides. I'm not the most creative. So that saved me so much time. And the third one, we use Google Notebook LM for SOPs. So really good standard operating procedure. We're training new team members. It's got all our policies, procedures on there. So more as a personal assistant admin, saving me loads of time. But be careful. Where people go wrong with AI, they research every single tool and it's down a rabbit hole. What I would say, do the opposite. Find out what task you want created or delegating, and then look for the best AI tool with that. So then we got AI in the clinical side in terms of we've all seen robots in Japan doing dentistry, etc. It could be doing Botox as well. But there's a lot more machines coming in. So AI personalized career, so personalized treatment care. So a patient puts their face in and then just, okay, this is your skin protocol we recommend. This is how much Botox you need, how much fillers we can do. So more as a treatment plan assistant. But yeah, marketing, admin, personal assistant, and clinical. Yeah, it's going to be here.
Do you use any AI note-taking in a clinical setting, like Heidi or anything like that?
Don't do any notes. No. So we have our templates. On Paboo that we use. I have seen it, but I do use AI note taking for Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams. It really summarizes. And when I have consultations with patients or delegates, I also ask the question, what's missing? What am I not seeing? It's the questions you ask. In AI, they say garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
So the better the quality of question, what am I missing from this meeting? What is the hidden meaning? And some of the stuff it comes up with is, oh my God.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah. Do you think clinics that don't implement AI sort of now are going to end up being on the back foot?
Yeah. So like when you did your Ignite courses, like the uptake has been quite, I do AI courses, it's so low, they don't think it's going to happen, or they're burying their head in the sand. They are going to be left behind because some of this is moving so fast there. Like even the image creation is amazing.
Yeah, it's wild.
So it's moving, if you're not on it, yeah.
So over the past 2.5 years or so, we spent a lot of time building out a content department at Ignite, which, I mean, this is kind of one of the, aspects of that.
Yeah.
Thinking that actually, you know what, content is probably last to be disrupted, but I mean, except for like physical, injecting or physical dentistry or whatever. But in the marketing world, we thought content creation, videography, actually that's where you're going into a clinic setting, you're filming someone. That's probably harder to replicate. And, we're kind of months away from it almost being indistinguishable. It's already so good that I think we're going to get to a point where we could come into Aesthetics Live, do a one-day shoot, take a bunch of pictures and videos of you and the team and the setting and the devices and, the entire thing. And then we can use that as source material to produce an infinite amount of content going forward. I mean, I think it'll be like a virtual studio basically. Which is mad to think of basically.
Yeah, content and also education, because people can just go on to AI, ChatGPT, whichever LLM, and just education's there. They can get educated. Obviously, you are going to get some hallucinations from the AI, but if you are just teaching education, you're going to be gone. It's about insights, your view, and that's why contrarian views, standing out from the crowd, is going to be really beneficial.
I mean, we use AI to research you in part as well. I mean, obviously I know your story, but you can signpost it where to look. I did have a hallucination though. There's something about you and Richard Branson in the pool. I know that actually happened for real. But no, honestly, it's been really good. I mean, do you want to do the honors on the confessional?
Yeah, sure. Well, you probably, hopefully you do know that we always ask a crazy story or a patient story, something that left you somewhat speechless. Could you tell us one of yours?
We might need a whole separate episode.
I know. So one of my patients, there's 3 stories where it says she's an adult film star, and OnlyFans. She's one of the most loveliest persons you'll ever meet, but also quite shockingly, very insecure about her looks and relationships. She also has failed relationships because she also thinks she's not good enough. So I've known her for about 5 years now. So she comes in, so we moved clinic to our high street location. And then she asked me, where's the nearest drop-in post box? Those Amazon lockers and stuff. I go, okay, it's over there. She goes, oh, one of my clients wants one of my knickers for £25. So I need to drop it off in the post thing there. And then, that's not the worst story.
Oh God, okay, that's just context.
And then a couple of months later, she comes in for a review, and she's itching around her chest area. And she can see I'm looking, so she lifts her top up. She goes, just had my nipples pierced. There, so no shame on showing anything there. Luckily, I do have an assistant that works with me. But the best story with her was, I think she was a bit tight for cash. She goes, oh, it's about £250. Do you mind coming to the studio? I'm sure we can find you a part in the film and stuff. So being a typical Indian guy, okay, what's my return on investment? So I charge her £250. I'm only going to last 5 minutes. Am I going to get £250 out of that? So I go, no, give me the money. But she's one of the nicest people and stuff, but so insecure. But she comes for every single. She knows she's very educated and stuff. She's in the peptides as well, but some of those things just says it it's a normal conversation to her. What she says.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. That's a brilliant story. Interestingly enough, I mean, we had a dry hire request for this studio, and one of the questions was if they could cover up the windows and if they could have 24-hour access. And we later found out what the purpose was. So we declined because we wanted to reuse the furniture. But wow, that's a crazy story. That's a really, really good story.
They're amazing. So obviously, for anyone that wants to find you or find more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so as Derek mentioned, the Aesthetic Contrarian, which is my weekly newsletter that talks about debunking clinical myths, Harry's Honest Hour. So that's at drharrysingh.com. And then my training company is botulinetoxinclub.co.uk, where I'll do training mainly for dentists, but we train medical professionals, medical nurses, pharmacists, paramedics, doctors, etc.
Amazing. And yeah, we have one final question. Do you want to do the honours?
Yeah. So the final question is the patient always right?
No.
No. Okay, go on. Enlighten us.
Patients are not always, because they have obviously it's like your mindset. You only know what you know, etc. So they know what they want, but they don't know how to get there. So we are the experts to guide them. And my treatment plans are always, number 1, do nothing, and number 5, surgery, and then everything else in between, non-surgical. So they are right in one stance in terms of what they want, but they're not right in terms of how they're going to get there.
Fair enough. I mean, that seems to be a fair and common theme, really.
Yeah, I think so. Seems to be pretty unanimous on that one.
Yeah.
The wife is always right, but not the patient.
Yeah, true story. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
Harry, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You didn't fail to disappoint. You had lots of great gems, great advice, great stories. It was a lot of fun. So really appreciate you coming in. Thanks for traveling in and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And I look forward to sharing it with the rest of the world.
No, thank you for your time, guys, and really enjoyed it.
Great. Love hearing the real stories behind the aesthetics, medical and dental industries? Make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Patient Is Always Right for exclusive content. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to watch the full episodes on YouTube. Hit follow, subscribe, and stay tuned.